couple more under-acknowledged magnetic researchers, Albert Roy Davis and Walter Rawls Jr. Two of my favorite books are The Magnetic Blueprint of Life and Magnetism and Its Effects on the Living System. These guys had a lot of documented work with therapeutic uses of magnets and the shape of the magnetic field, which went beyond the ferrocell or the ferrite particles or even the magnetic viewing film. They were saying that there are two donut-like shapes on top of each magnet with vortexes, and they were able to show that for the first time decades ago. They have a website called magnetage.com, and I suggest people read the frequently asked questions page on there because it gets kind of confusing to people when you're dealing with compasses and magnets. But they developed a therapy called biomagnetic therapy, and they claimed to have the science and documentation to show the benefits of these specific magnets placed on different parts of the body for different periods of time, and it would alleviate certain ailments. So I was looking at their claims, and I was looking at the pictures of blood before and after magnetism therapies, and boy, they looked a lot like these so-called structure water therapies, when you have water cycled through some geometric device and then people drink the water, and it's claimed to benefit the system somehow. And indeed, when you look through a microscope at the blood, you can see similarities between these stacked red blood cells and rouleaus and symplasts, and then when they drink this type of water or receive this biomagnetic therapy, the cells change. They become more individualized, more buoyant, more magnetically repulsive to each other, and that means more surface area to absorb more oxygen, more to deliver more nutrients, and have more charge. So there are similarities between this biomagnetism treatments and these structured water treatments, and the reason why I was interested in the so-called structured water is because of the magnetic components introduced in some of these setups. And here is a picture of some of those examples. On the top you see an example of Dan Winter's imploder nozzle, which is a 3D printed spiral nozzle which forces the water to spin on itself and back again. And after it does so, it is sent through an array of these magnets that are forced together even though they want to repel. And what it does is it somehow benefits the water. And there are other machines or units that they even sell in Home Depot and hardware stores that you could put around your gas line, or you can put around your water heater in your house, and it's claimed to soften the water or benefit the water somehow. So this isn't a new idea, and it's not a so crazy idea. They're being applied now in different industries, but the claims for each are different. So some say it softens the water, some say it structures the water, some say it changes the molecular makeup. Whatever it's doing, it's benefiting the water somehow. And when you water plants with it, you can see that indeed the plants grow faster. The plants don't have placebo, they're not going to fool themselves. So that I take as conclusive proof that there's something happening with the water. So whether you send it through magnetic fields or you send it through hexagonal arrays, it's doing something, and it's simulating the same benefit as these biomagnetic therapies. Victor Schauberger would be proud. Now, I put together another video on YouTube called Super Imploder Magnets and Water Structurizers. And I took apart Dan Winter's unit and a couple other people's units, Clayton Nolte, and I tried to get an idea of how their theories for their water units were working. And that gave me the information to put together my own units and combine their info. And I made videos to try to help other people understand that. Now you can find out more about Dan Winter's imploder nozzle with these phase conjugated magnets, which are just forced together even though they want to repel. Go to fractalfield.com/imploder magnetic research. And just to show you that this isn't just all talk, here's some side-by-side comparisons of plants and yields, food, real tangible stuff benefited by this water. And this particular piece on the top two images of this slide comes from rainmakerh2o.com, and the last two on the bottom are from Dan Winter's setup. So whether you use magnets, whether you just cycle the water through like a resonant cavity, make it cavitate, whether you promote the hydrogen ions, whatever you're doing to the water, it is benefiting it, and you're getting almost twice as much food. So that you can't deny results. Which brings us to the work of Gerald Pollack and Stephen Settlemyer and their experiments with exclusion zone water, or so-called EZ water, which is now called deuterium-depleted water. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because of the magnetic component required to make this state of water. And there is an excellent video on YouTube called Electrically Structured Water, which promotes the work of Gerald Pollack. And what you see here is the work of Stephen Settlemyer, who is an associate of Gerald Pollack. And this is a very unique distillation process that uses microwaves at 5,000 volts inside of a resonant cavity. They distill the water about 14 times, and as it's cycling through this unit. And there's a magnetic field. At the same time, there is a electric field. And what it does, he says that the distillation process makes for the molecules to be, as an analogy, more elastic, so that they're easier to split electrically. And when you do, under the presence of a magnetic field, it renders the water into another electrical state. And I have this video so that you can see exactly what is going on with that. So just take a moment to see this. Now what you're seeing here is the rings that represent oxygen, and H2O is like the Mickey Mouse ears, and you see that coming together. So that's the H2 and the O. Now, Stephen Settlemyer says that the electrical bonds making up the ears of that H2O are spinning in opposite directions. They're counter-rotating. But his process, after you do this electrical process under the presence of a magnetic field, it makes for those bonds to spin in the same direction and stay that way after the process. And that is has been debated for years. A lot of skeptics, rightfully so, have questioned so-called structured water, saying that it can't remain in that state. You can't alter the molecules unless it stays that way for longer than a nanosecond or microseconds. And that's true. You cannot change the bonds indefinitely, except if you have this new process. All of the other units that are cycling water and so-called structuring the water are doing some benefit. Whether they are rearranging the molecules, rearranging the electrical spin of the bonds or whatever for however long of a time, it seems to make plants grow and benefit. I use it for myself and my dogs. They like it. I like it. It works. So the makeup of the bonds and the molecular stuff can be debated, but not this particular process. This is a documented process, and the benefits are also documented. You can visit diviniawater.com and find out more about these claims of this water. Now, when you render water in this state, it does different stuff. And you can see that as an example through concrete and industry. Stephen Settlemyer says that these tests have been done, and I was able to communicate with him a few weeks ago, and he sent me all these documents, of which I'll have available for other people to scrutinize. He says that during these concrete tests, normally it takes concrete to set in 28 days. And I did some of my work in my own house, and I can attest to that. It takes about a month for concrete to fully set. But he says when you mix it with this type of water, the concrete will set in 4 days while being twice as hard. So that you can use half the concrete in a job and it will be done in 4 days. Now that is a claim for industry to investigate. Another claim is that it will emulsify oil and water. Everybody knows that oil and water don't mix. You pour some oil on top and it will just sit. When you shake it up, you'll get little bubbles of oil and then it'll eventually go to the top again. If you want the oil to mix with water, you have to mix some dish soap or a surfactant of some type to mix the oil so that it's able to mix with the water. It's called emulsifying. But with this type of electrically structured water, the oil and the water, when you shake up a bottle, it will just 100% mix and stay that way. That is strange. Water does not do that without a surfactant. There are claims that you can use this water as a fuel additive to make biodiesel and other fuels last longer. I'll show you that in a sec. But the other claim that I haven't seen is that this type of water eats through plastic. Now you have to keep it in glass bottles. So maybe that can be used for helping clean up waste plastic, which takes a long time to decompose. Again, Stephen Settlemeyer sent me a link through email, which is about 20 PDFs and case studies showing the benefits of this magnetically and electrically treated water. And a man who needed a liver transplant was drinking this water and completely was healed and didn't need a liver transplant anymore. That's a very big claim. And another claim with kidney failure, and this gentleman who was drinking the water and he didn't need dialysis anymore and didn't need a kidney transplant anymore. That doesn't happen. So it's another claim to investigate, please. Moving on more to the magnets.